whole time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's dates, October 4th, 2020. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, the man downstairs, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello. And and of course, we have one of our favorite guests here tonight to join us live. Is Chris, can you pass on the point? There we are. Mr. Jeff Stewart, no better known as the Crypto Hulk. And good evening to you, sir.
Oh, there we go. Good evening.
So let's do our roll call for the folks that have rolled in for the show. Hello to Alan. Hello, Alan.
Alan.
Pat, good to see you, brother.
Hi, Pat.
Of course, what night would be complete without the meatloaf? Mr. Mick is on.
Oh, hey, Mick. Meatloaf.
Kerry, good afternoon. James,
hey,
good
Kerry.
to see. We got James. Hello, James. Welcome.
James.
Oh, there he is. Wife's orders.
Me.
We got Sean Forkers.
Sean.
Hey, Sean, brother. Hey. And we got Mike Stetton. Of course,
Mike.
Mr. Celtic.
Celtic.
Alan again. And,
hey,
of course,
Alan.
Keith has popped on as well. Our good friend
Keith Worley.
Keith Worley. Hey.
Yay.
So here we are tonight, folks. We got a lot to cover tonight. And, boy, we're going to have some fun tonight as well. We always have fun on our shows. And I don't know if you missed it earlier, Jeff, when I was talking with Chris off, before we went on the air. But I was on the 40 and slip tonight. And,
Tack.
And there's Tack. Hopefully he's feeling much better. John, good to see you, brother.
John.
So the regulars have filtered in. We'll
Welcome.
see who else shows up. And folks, for those on YouTube, make sure you give this show a thumbs up, please, if you like what you're hearing. And and here's Steve Stroyford. Good to see you, Steven.
Bigfoot books. Hey.
So anyway, So I figured out that I can I can imitate Alex Jones. So
Oh my God.
all of a sudden we all started talking. All of a sudden I'm like, yeah, okay, how you doing, everybody? Yeah, this is Alex Jones, and we are the Bilderbergs. They're coming over the wall now, and so yeah, I figured out I actually sound like him.
That's really close. It really is. Yeah.
Well, they took me off of YouTube, and but that's okay because you can find me over on the website, and I can go on all night. So, so some voices I can do pretty adeptly. I used to do Reagan, and I'll see if I can pull a Reagan off. I haven't done that in years. Well, last night, me and Nancy. Oops, wrong. And
well, you got the well down pat for sure. Hi, Cherry.
Yep. Well, but the other one, let me be perfectly clear. That was my Obama. I just anyway. Let's get on with business of the night. So first we'll do a little bit of news, in case, and I want to thank Carl Schuker over on Facebook for putting this to my attention. But apparently, there is another alleged sonar sighting with Nessie in Loch Ness.
Yeah.
Supposedly it was. It says. Now 21st century sonar imaging would appear to have achieved what others have previously failed to do and recorded the most compelling and startling evidence yet of the existence of the Loch Ness Monster. Mind you, this is in one of the Scotland newspapers. The find has left experts astounded by the clarity and size of the object, which was spotted last Wednesday lurking nearly 600 feet below the surface of the loch, the second deepest in the UK. Images of a crescent-shaped mass estimated at 33 feet long, were captured by a tourist cruise boat carrying 12 passengers on the final trip of the day around 4:30 p.m. Skipper Ronald McKenzie, 49. I'm thinking of a burger.
After the show, Steve, you can get a Big Mac later, man.
That's right. Where
were we?
No, where were
I lost it too.
So
I'm reading along and I lost it.
Skipper Ronald McKenzie, 49, of Cruise Loch Ness, who has worked on the loch for more than 30 years, said, "I've always got my eyes glued to the screen, but I've never seen anything like this. We had a strong contact, and it was right smack bang in the middle of the loch, about 170 meters, which is 558 feet for us people over here in the United States. Ironically, some of the tourists on board the 2-year-old catamaran missed the sighting as they were watching a sea eagle pass close by at the time." Mackenzie added, "We were halfway point of our Invermoriston, off Invermoriston, where we turned around. The water is 620 feet deep there. That's when I saw the sonar something more eye-catching than a sea eagle. Because the boat was doing 10.7 knots, it was unable to detect if the object was moving or stationary, but it was big, at least 10 meters, which is 33 feet. This is the best sighting ever of Nessie. The contact lasted 10 seconds while we passed over it. We've had contacts in the past, but nothing like this. We have state-of-the-art sonar on the new boat. It doesn't lie. It can't lie. It captures what's there.
Wow.
All the dots near the surface are shoals of Arctic char, and deeper down there are ferox trout, so it gives you a good idea of the size of this large crescent shape. I believe there's something in the loch and nobody knows what it is, and we should leave it alone. I've always thought there was something there, be it a big eel or a sturgeon or a big fish of some sort, or even Nessie. It's blown me away. I've been looking at it all night and all morning. I'm no sonar expert, but this is baffling." So, but it also says the legend of the monster is said to be worth £41 million, which roughly is about $82 million into the region of tourism income.
Oh, wow.
It has led to a string of films, including the 1996 hit Loch Ness, starring Ted Danson and Jolie Richardson. So,
So we have a new sonar hit with new equipment, 500 and what was it, 87 or 558 feet down, 33 feet long.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's a few more. So we got that little news article. It's very interesting. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, I thought the deal with Nessie was over. Sorry, I thought that was it. But hey, whatever it is, okay, that they got on sonar, it's bound to be. It don't have to be a plesiosaur or something, but it's something over 30 feet long, dude. That's a monster. Whatever it is, it's a monster.
Yep. So let's say hi to a few of other folks in here too as well. Sherry's in the house. Hello,
Sherry.
Sarah. Good evening, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
John,
welcome.
John Bush. Brian Impey is also in the house.
Hey, Brian.
So, so I found that kind of cool. A little something uplifting for the day.
Yeah.
So let's get on before we get into our topic tonight, which is when networks go wrong with Bigfoot. And Jeff suggested that perhaps it was an easier, a shorter. But you see, we want length in our subjects. if we wanted a short subject, we would go when they go right with Bigfoot. But
that's a real short subject there.
Also, Colonel Chubbs is in the house.
Colonel Chubbs, welcome.
So anyway, I want to respond to something. People who know Michael Merchant, he has a channel, Snowwalker Prime, here on YouTube, had made some comments. I don't know exactly when they were. Hello, Ashley. And he made some comments about us, kind of beating around the bush when it came to Russell Accord. So, I didn't get back to him in time. I said, we've covered that in a couple of episodes. Yeah. And I remember we talked about it, I think, in episode, 10, saying, we made mention of Expedition Bigfoot.
Yeah.
We talked about, we'll have to give it a try, see what everybody thinks, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But then on episode 15, we made this, here's a screen cap of the show, of us talking about the alleged, tracks along their little walk, and it's supposed to be a 6-mile walk from base camp. Why the tracks seem, right? So we said, okay, we'll keep on the prowl for it. But then in episode 15, thanks to some internet sleuths who had come down, we covered this quite extensively, as you'll see. We talked about them being at Antoine Ranch. And we talked for quite a bit. We included a lot of stuff that, like overhead shots and, some of the stuff we found on the internet.
Yep.
And, including some mapping that I had done. So, I don't see where we're not necessarily skating around it at all.
No.
And more to the fact, and I'll pop this up, that as you see, on February 13th, which episode 15 aired, I believe, or 21 aired, I believe, on February 26th. So I gave these folks a couple of weeks to respond, so you see the length that we're actually looking at. I actually sent a letter to the ranch, asking if they could confirm some stuff for us, or, and one of my questions is, I was wondering if you can confirm if Expedition Bigfoot, Rail Splitter Media, which is the production company, actually stayed at the resort last year when filming. If so, for how long? Have there been Sasquatch sightings on or near the ranch? Because that would be pertinent to why they would be there. Look forward to your response. Of course, I never did get any kind of response from it. And I did, at some point, I believe I sent him a second one along, but I figured I'd send you the initial pop when we started, doing this. So, to me, I just feel that somebody's mistaken about saying we beat around the bush. If they were wondering, and I'm glad to have Jeff on here, because I myself have done TV. Jeff has done a lot of TV. And, when I talked to, I talked to Jeff, and I've talked to Russell, off there, where he can, in private conversations, we can say things that aren't meant for public consumption, because Russell, and in some cases even Jeff, are under NDAs not to talk about certain things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you find yourself in a jam. And Russell had been under an NDA. Not to mention the fact that they were trying to renegotiate or try to, lobby for a season 2, which still hasn't been announced. So that's probably not a good sign. We'll see, after the first year if they pick it up. But
yeah, I mean, people don't realize that when you don't just show up, do a show, and you're the star, you're in charge. You're not. If you want to do a show, or if they approach you, you have a contract that you have to sign. And in that contract, it states very plainly and clearly who is in charge and who has the control over content and all of those things, and that if you open your mouth and say specific certain things, you can be sued. You can get in some trouble financially if you open your mouth.
Right.
Bill Brock's in the house, and he says, "I'm the star," and he would know too. He would know too. And again, it changes a little bit if you get like an executive producer role or something like that. It can change over time. But I've never seen a season 1 show where a talent like on one of these shows, where you're a talent on the show where you have the power to do what you want, because you don't. You really don't. You may be able to guide, direct, and do stuff, but you don't have that power at all. And if you're under an NDA, obviously, I remember I got my hand slapped a little bit because I mentioned that I had done the Loch Ness program in one of my blogs before, trying to generate a local interest in it. Prior to the release of the film, and they told me, said, "Can you please take that down?" Now we really, So basically, I was like, okay, I got to take it down.
Oops.
Whoops. They didn't want any advertising other than what they do. So, okay, whatever. And that was just a documentary. And luckily, I've been blessed. I've been blessed with doing programs that I have some semblance. And Jeff, we were talking about that too, is that sometimes they'll want you to say something that isn't correct. And I was always quick to say, I can't say it because it's not correct. Well, then they turn around, well, can you say something similar that would make it correct? In that case, I could say, yeah, sure. But sometimes you don't always have that break,
Yeah.
I know one particular instance, I was filming a very, very popular show. And, we're filming, I can't mention the name of it. I don't want to get in trouble there, but we're filming, and I've literally got a cameraman, a director that's standing over the shoulder of the cameraman, a sound guy with a boom mic sticking over top of both of them. Then behind them, I had 2 PAs. One of them was carrying batteries for the sound equipment and the cameras and stuff, and the other one had a little backpack with water and snacks and things in it. So there were literally like 6 people. And, I'm supposed to be going out through there, and the director says, look into the distance and act like you hear a noise. And I said, no. And he's, why? And I said, because I don't hear a noise. Right, but we're going to edit that in. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And ensued about a 30-minute long argument with the director of this show, because I told him I would not pretend to hear things that weren't there, and I would not pretend to find evidence that wasn't there.
Right. And yes, Alan, PA is production assistant, correct? Not physician's assistant like in the real world, but in the movie world, PA is a production assistant.
Basically, PA is somebody that goes and gets your coffee and does everything that nobody else wants to do. They are really great people.
Yeah. And in fairness to Bill Brock too, I haven't seen too much criticism of anything he's done. So that's a plus. And the same with some of the programs I've been on, And Jeff, I haven't heard you come under fire for anything you've done, because we're those type of personalities where, you know, we try to avoid where, you know, it gets kind of in a muddled area. And I've been blessed. I haven't been in a, you know, nobody's ever asked me to do anything like that. Did we do some recreations of scenes? Yes. There's a couple of scenes where they wanted me running a little bit, and that was just a recreation of something that actually happened.
Yeah.
And that was just to get my feet running. And that's what they did. Then there was another one where we had this audio exchange where they took my live video and they had a couple of the other guys on the expedition recreate what they had said. And luckily we were keeping, we would be keeping, and thank you, Jim Jernigan. We wouldn't be friends if you were a BS guy. Absolutely, Jim. So, you know, to me, it was, okay, this is fair. This is a fair thing. It's not like we're putting anything on. We're not adding anything to it. This is how it rolled out. And they didn't even pipe in a phony noise. And Mr. Celtic asked, by a second season, and you realize hoaxing is taking place, can't you remove yourself from a series? All depends on the contract.
Yeah.
It depends on your contract. You can have an out, you can have a exit clause. You know, and granted, I am not a talent attorney.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are a number of things. And yes, yours truly actually did get a contract once from a UK company to do a show on lake cryptids of all things. Yes, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was just saying that was the Nessie one. Everything comes around.
Yeah. And I didn't sign it because there were some restrictions on, you know, I can't have a website, I can't have a blog, I can't have anything. And it wasn't specific to a cryptid. It was, you know, it was just general broad-based. And I said, well, we definitely have to discuss this. And that was really the last time I heard from them, which was fine. I'm not going to, you know, say I'm not going to have a blog.
Right.
Mr. Bachochin, late to the party, but always welcome.
Welcome, Jay. Yeah, and I think a lot of it would depend on the type of show you're doing too, because if they got in the contract for entertainment and they're like, you know, making up stuff that has nothing to do with you, I mean, you can't get out of it. You're still going to be part of it because it's for entertainment.
Well, you got to understand, anything that goes on television is for entertainment.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if NatGeo is doing it, the Science Channel's doing it. You know, I just watched Les Stroud's, no, not the Bigfoot stuff. I watched Les Stroud's the Grizzly Corridor, whatever it was about Alaska and him. And, you know, I'm pretty sure all the stuff in it was as it happened.
Yeah.
You know, but at least it's, you know, some legit stuff going on there. It's nothing like wild or faked or anything like that. And at the time, it's interesting to watch.
I'll tell you this about Les. I worked a lot with Les. We did the Survivor Man Bigfoot, but then I did several episodes of his personal show that airs only on his network in Canada, the Survivor Man Network. And he was probably the most genuine person that I ever worked with as far as content, you know, his control of the content of everything. Things just kind of happened. We didn't like walk off into the distance and walk this way slowly, kind of, you know, look longingly into the distance. None of that happened. It was like, oh, good, we got a good shot of you walking up that dirt road or something like that. But just about everything Les did was genuine. It was not staged. He's a great guy. We stay in contact. He doesn't do social media a lot. He does more now than he used to, but most everything is by email. We email each other and things like that. And man, I really wish he would do another Survivor Man Bigfoot show because I really enjoyed doing it.
Sans the other Canadian. But
I thought Les's showed some of the more enjoyable ones because he talked about his experiences and stuff and why he's out there. You know, he's looking for an answer for himself.
Well, you know, here's the thing. You know, I've never criticized Les for having standing on the show. I understand why he did it. He's another Canadian. It is what it is. I'm the least critical of Les. I've had conversations with Jeff about why he did what he did. He wanted to see if there was any truth to it. Which is a sign.
There's more with what you can and can't say that goes on there, like we talk about with private conversation.
Yep.
You know, you got to watch what you say because you can be sued. There's different laws in Canada than there is in the United States and stuff. So the level of liable and things like that can put you in an actionable position. You really got to be careful. So, you know, don't judge Les too harshly on standing, because if you sat down with him and had a face-to-face conversation about standing, you might have a different idea about Les.
Exactly. That's why I never really prejudged it or anything like that. And that's why I withheld any criticism until I talked to Jeff. I'm like, okay, you know, hey, you know, why? And we talked, and he saw some of the stuff I had, which he hadn't seen before. He's like, oh, wow. And he understood. I gotta say, you know, you hit the nail on the head, though. There's a lot of conversations. You don't know what's going on in the background. Everybody thinks they do. And that's unfortunate, because people say, well, why don't they don't understand the movie. A lot of times people don't understand TV. Now, one would think Michael Merchant would, so maybe now he understands. Maybe he just missed it because I didn't give him the episodes, because I didn't know until this morning myself, till I decided, let's do this show. And when I was going through it, it took me, 20 minutes. I had to go through. I said, well, I think it started here. And I started clicking on all those shows and running through them real quick, looking for the graphics. Because we always associate our things with the graphics, and I happened to find it. And I remember, okay, 12's not it, 13's not it, 14's not it. And finally I got to episode 21. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't know off the top of my head. And I also say, too, if you want to throw an accusation, you got to do your own research. You threw the accusation without doing your research. I told you to be done it. You were expecting me to hand it to you on a platter. I'm sorry. Sometimes I don't have time. I work. I've been back to work 3 weeks now. So,
well, we did cover, long story short, we did cover it, and at least 2 shows, and then more.
Right. And I remember the first show, we covered it very briefly.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't much to the story after that. I was like, okay,
right.
So, what's going on? And then people started picking stuff out, and I kind of picked up on it.
Right.
So I was like, okay, awesome. I will turn around and let's cover it. We did for a good 10 minutes or so talking about that. And we also talked about stuff like, well, sometimes this is production company, which let's talk about, and this is why we wanted to do some of the stuff. Let's talk about, a good example is Finding Bigfoot. Let's remember their season 1. And actually, the funny thing is, I actually have a wiki on them. And, this is what happens when you have a very popular show. Let me get to this little thing.
By the way, hey, Walt. Hey, Walt. Big Walt, little Walt.
I know it's here somewhere. I read it. Reception. Okay. So it says right here on the wiki, and I remember that Animal Planet has received criticism for finding Bigfoot and mermaids, the body found, for their outlandishness. However, okay, that was so. The mermaids, the body found was one of Animal Planet's programs. Remember that whole? We talked about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And people like making, no offense, Jim, people like making comments like never finding Bigfoot. Come on. I think it was a stupid name to begin with, Finding Bigfoot. You know, that again is a production name, and you know, it's like shooting Bigfoot, or there's a they could have called it looking for Bigfoot. They could have called it a number of things, and people wouldn't have.
People got to realize this: that finding Bigfoot. I mean, I did finding Bigfoot. I spent 9 days on one episode. I actually was involved in 2 episodes, and I was on one and then just involved in the other one. Right. People have to realize that when you watch it, immediately this show was not made for the hardcore Bigfoot or cryptozoological enthusiast, the researcher, it wasn't made for the hardcore. This was made for the people that flip through the channel and watch every Bigfoot show that comes on. It's made for entertainment purposes. It was made for the 12, 14, 16-year-old kids that just love the monsters and all of those things. This show was really made for that. It was 100% entertainment. It had some great people on it. James, Bobo, Faye, he and I are the best of friends. He is a great human being. Cliff and I are good friends. Oh my goodness, I made some good friends there.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I mean, I'll say this: I threatened to throat punch Moneymaker more than once whenever I was filming. He and I hate one another.
I'm much more diplomatic.
Yeah.
I'm much more diplomatic. I understand him.
You cross me, you better have a bulldog butt to match up with that bulldog mouth. Because if you got a hummingbird butt and a bulldog mouth, you ain't going to be happy when I get done.
Yep.
That's just, I'm from Texas. That's just the way we do things.
Yep. And here's the thing. I've worked on a few episodes myself. I've worked on the Mother Bigfoot episode. I've worked on the Baby Bigfoot episode. I worked on the
Whitehall
Vermont episode, the Whitehall, Vermont episode.
Yeah.
And they did their best to try to get whatever they could. They really did. But I was there more than one time when the director said, "Okay, we got to go. Come on, we got to go. We got to go." So, it's a job. And when the boss says you got to go, you got to go.
Exactly. I mean, there were things that went on I wasn't happy with,
right.
But I had no say in them because I was on their dime, basically. And I had signed their little contract thing that you have to sign in order to do the show. I mean, it's not a real extensive one, but it is a little contract. And, when you're employed, you do what the boss says or you quit. So you have to draw that line where, okay, here's my line. As long as you're not asking me to lie, then, I'm gonna, if we have to leave right whenever the stuff's getting good, then we just have to leave.
Yeah. I luckily was not under any contractual obligation to the show. They asked me to come out and help them, scout some locations, meet some witnesses, stuff like that, which I did. I never saw anything that was disingenuously done. Everything that was done was genuine. There was nothing, faked, at least in my presence. So I can only speak from experience. I know Cliff did his remote thing one night when they were doing the remote thing. And I was actually, while they were filming him, I was actually there for, a few hours with him. And we actually sat together, but they kept me off of camera because it was supposed to be a solo mission. That was about the only disingenuous thing was, okay, I'm there. And we know he's got a cameraman there. So,
Well,
and what the hell? I wanted to hang out with Cliff in the field. That's kind of fun.
Yeah,
So,
Cliff is a stand-up guy, man. I
Sure
like
is.
him. And matter of
Sure
fact, I think he was on the show before the first episode of Finding Bigfoot aired. He was like doing a promo for it.
that was the show we did remotely from the Ohio Bigfoot Conference.
Okay.
And he was the guest that night. And it was all about, hey, coming up next week is this new show.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Cool.
you know, and I also got to say, because they had genuine people on the show, I think that helped with and the appeal, the universal appeal to kids and stuff like that. It did, something just happened. It did last for 9 seasons, a long time for a show like that.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I think, I always say it had some positive stuff. It had some negative stuff. But there's also something I want to make mention of, too, and this is in the wiki, too. It said several episodes of the first season received heavy criticism from the 4 Finding Bigfoot members themselves for editing style that Animal Planet had used to make it appear that a horse and a person were identified by the team, and what they were remained unknown. The second event involved the horse led the team to threaten to quit the show if such techniques were used again.
Yeah.
So there we are. That's why season 1 was kind of, but season 2 seemed to be a little bit better.
Right.
And I think by the final season,
I've been involved with many shows that what we filmed out in the field and they sent or took into the editing room.
Yep.
The guys that are editing this are not the guys that are in the field.
Yep.
It's not even the director and the producer and people like that in the field. This gets sent back to wherever their production company is. It may be in Hollywood, it may be Los Angeles, it may be wherever. And these guys are over here in filming another episode while that stuff has been sent to the editing. And what those guys do in editing, the people that were involved with making the show have no control over whatsoever.
Right. And they had at least enough integrity to say, listen, you need to stop this or we're going to quit.
Yeah.
To me, that speaks integrity. And I knew about this. I knew what was going on at the time, but it was all hushed. But it's very true. They had all threatened to quit. Say, listen, this isn't going to happen. Either that or you can, So that was, that was cool. And like I said, that shows at least some integrity.
Now, this has been several years ago, but I seem to remember that when this first came out, Matt Moneymaker was like on the BFRO website posting or something. Look, dudes, look, guys, this was a horse,
Yeah.
We're not trying to hoax anybody, I don't know why they did it where they did.
Yep.
He actually went on Cryptomundo. There was a thread on Cryptomundo. I remember because I commented on it on Cryptomundo where he went on there and answered, like he said, yes, we know what this was. It was a horse. We confirmed it. It just got edited out.
Yep.
And, so, I mean, he addressed it. And,
right.
And Bobo addressed it. Several of the cast members have addressed it. And they've addressed other aspects that have been edited funky or differently or wrongly or however how you want to put it. And they've addressed a lot of things. And I just keep reminding people, it's entertainment. It's entertainment. It's entertainment.
Yeah. Sometimes.
If you want to watch a documentary, then you need to specifically go and watch a documentary.
Yep.
Now, shame on certain shows that present themselves as being a 100% actual documentary type show.
Hang on. You mean that one?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. The one that we all got so many emails and messages and voicemails from everybody saying, "Oh my God, they got him! They got him!"
Yeah.
And then they, So let's close out Finding Bigfoot real quick. So like I said, what I always thought were the pluses is that they made Bigfoot not a 4-letter word anymore. I think they brought out a lot of people that, felt a little more braver, a little more less, friggin' word I'm looking for. Less scared is the best word I can use right now.
Millions of people
less
do
scared. Yeah.
watch episodes of Finding Bigfoot. It literally took the fringe connotations of Bigfoot and put it in a that didn't really believe in Bigfoot, but man, this show's fun. You know, and kind of took some of that fear, some of that look down your nose at these Bigfoot blackos, you know, and it kind of got rid of a little bit of that, the way we were looked at.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I think since finding Bigfoot brought Bigfoot mainstream, you know, the increased awareness, it made it people who didn't really want to talk about a sighting before. Like after the show that aired a few times, they started watching it, and they're like, they might tell their buddy, "Hey man, you remember a couple of years ago when we was fishing over there, and I went off over there? Yeah, I saw something in the woods."
Now,
you know,
here's the flip side of that coin.
They can tell about how Bigfoot comes and gets garlic and cinnamon from them.
It's true. Yeah, it works both ways. Yeah,
that's right. Here's the Jeff.
It needs some garlic for his spaghetti and bread. You know.
Yeah.
The flip side of that though is they made Bigfoot research look really easier than what it is.
Yeah.
They made it all tree knocks and whoops, and they really employed some very interesting and great techniques, but they also employed some really off-the-wall techniques, and those were the ones people remembered. So, you know, it reminds me of the days when Henry Franzoni, that old A&E special documentary, when Henry Franzoni was in the middle of the forest playing his drums, hoping Bigfoot will show up.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So, but anyway, it was a good show. A lot of people are saying, yeah, it was a good show for TV. And, you know, David says they still made it look silly. They did. Again, I don't know how much, you got to understand, they made it look silly, but the actors didn't make it look silly. Remember, it's the editors that did.
Yeah.
You know, it's all in the editing process.
My favorite part of finding Bigfoot was Cliff Bergman. Okay.
You know, here's the interesting thing. You know, when I did the Loch Ness special,
yep.
You know, you can tell they do great jobs editing because they made me look like a friggin' rock star. You know, they got me coming in down.
Bobo is not the big dumb lummox that they made him out to be. He is a very highly intelligent man, and he can sit and have a conversation with you about anything you want to have a conversation about. You know, from cryptozoology to flipping mathematics or whatever. You know, I mean, Bobo James is not an idiot. He is a very smart man.
Yeah, Bobo was playing a role. He was playing a role.
They edited it in such a way that he fit that lovable big lummox that everybody wants in a show, and they edited him to be that big guy. And,
the big galoot,
yeah. And
they wanted the skeptic, they wanted the big bumbling guy, they wanted the little brainiac, and they wanted the guy with the big mouth, and that was what they.
10 minutes into a conversation with Renee, you'll find out that she was not nearly as big a skeptic as they portrayed her to be.
Yeah. So anyway, here we go with this Bigfoot captured. Now here's a scenario where, you know, and Jeff has been, Dr. Jeff Meldrum has been very outspoken about this, that here's these crews, and they interviewed him. I believe they interviewed Bindernagel at the time. I forget who else was on the show. There's a couple.
I don't know.
But
I know they got Meldrum for sure. Yeah.
And they got that one. I don't know if they put that wacky guy from Colorado on there. What's his name? The guy that thought the aerial thing was a Bigfoot. Wasn't Kelly Shaw on that thing?
Oh God, I don't know.
But anyway, so you know, here's a show where they said, "Oh, we're doing this documentary on Bigfoot," and they're filming all these serious segments. But what they didn't tell them is in the background they're doing this, you know, BS part, and you know, I blame it on the Bilderbergs. I'm sorry. Go away, Alex. You know,
they didn't tell Dr. Meldrum that this was footage was going to be used for a mockumentary.
Right. So, and that can happen to anybody if they're disingenuous, and so you got to be very careful about what people are doing. Just recently, hey Don, good to see you, brother.
Don. Jim Jernigan's, I like that comment, Jim. That is so true. But Steve will not put it up there, Steve. Put it up there. I want to make you put that up there. Put it up there. I know you're modest, but I'm there. You go. He does a good job on film. He surely does.
Thank you, Jim.
He does.
We dropped Jeff. Hopefully he'll get back on.
Oh, Jeff, where'd he go?
He dropped.
Maybe he'll be back.
Yep. So, like I said, this capturing Bigfoot thing was just really, and we're going to get to the question. Somebody asked how many dogs does Jeff have. There he is. Hey, Jeff, while you were gone, we do have a question. Somebody in the chat room, and I forget where it is, somebody asked how many dogs do you have?
I run a rescue. I have the only rescue in the county in which I live. And I have around 40 dogs that we take care of on a daily basis here on our property. We have kennels and fenced-in yards and things like that, and we go out and get mostly the ones that are in bad shape. If they've been run over and can't get vet help, I have a veterinarian that works with us, and we get help. So we do all we can to help. I'm not somebody that's trying to save the world, but I have a heart.
Well done, Jeff. Very good, very good, man.
We love our canines.
Proud of you.
Oh man, I also do wildlife rehabilitation for the state, and so we've had deer. I've done raptor rehabilitation with owls. We have had raccoons, possums, just about every kind of animal that can get run over on the highway. We've had at one point or another.
Jeff, do you have a website, by the way, for that?
Just a Facebook page that is Sunshine Shoulders Rescue. Sunshine
Shoulders Rescue. Let's make sure. And is there a way people can donate to that, by the way?
Yes, I have a PayPal account, which is skstewart_99@yahoo.com. And anyone, it is greatly appreciated, and every dime that is ever donated goes 100% to the animals.
And they can also get that off the Facebook page,
good deal.
Correct?
Yes.
So it's called, Shoulders. What's the first word?
Sunshine Shoulders.
Sunshine Shoulders.
From the song, Sunshine on My Shoulders. And so it's Sunshine Shoulders. We actually had rescued a little dog and named her Sunshine. And she actually got killed last year.
Oh.
A guy purposefully ran up into my driveway and hit her. I watched him do it. She was standing about 10 feet inside my driveway. And the guy came down my street, swerved up into my driveway and hit her and killed her.
That's
That's
horrible.
I'm still looking for that fella.
Yeah, I'd like to take a bat to him.
Uncle Jeff may catch a felony on that one.
and Pat said he'll take all your chihuahuas.
We have 9, 10. We have 11 chihuahuas.
That's a lot of chihuahuas.
And then we have a couple of Boston Terriers and a couple of Jack Russell Terriers. And they have their own room in my house. The chihuahuas don't stay out in kennels. They stay in the house. And so they have a room in which I totally gutted the room. There's nothing in the room. I painted the floor with like the paint that you paint like a shop floor with.
Yeah.
So that it's totally, waterproof and everything. And I built kennels along the wall. So they each have their own beds and things in those little kennels. And, oh my goodness, they have toys and all their little things, and it's amazing. Our Chihuahuas are almost like our babies.
That's right. And boy, when they go on a stampede, the ground shakes.
I'll tell you what, I'm sorry for anybody that would break into my house, because from the ankles down, they are dead.
His ankles are shredded.
I'm telling you what, dude.
Oh, man.
You know, I used to have 3 Chihuahuas, and I got a bulldog pup. And I remember every night at 11 o'clock, the Chihuahuas would stampede. And they would run from one end of the house to the other. And they would...
We call that romper room. When they do that, we call that the romper room time.
Okay. So then I got the bulldog puppy. And then you would hear this.
Oh, man.
He was always in the back, slower than anything. Yeah. Well, you know, dogs are awesome. No matter what size, what breed, they're all awesome. So I have an affinity for dogs, and I have a rescue cat here too. Her name is Charlie, and she just, you know, always remembers that, you know, I rescued her, because my goodness, and when I'm sitting on the couch, she wants my attention, and I'll be sitting there on the couch. She'll get up on the back of the couch, start headbutting me. You know, like, what the? Knock it off! Will you?
Can't have any cats. I have a pet raccoon, and my pet raccoon molests cats. So
you got a pet raccoon?
He weighs like 40 pounds. His name is George Cooney. That's his name, George Cooney.
Good name.
And he lives in our house like a rabid 3-year-old. You'll find him in the kitchen cabinet. He's just pushed everything out of the kitchen cabinet onto the floor, and he's laying on his back inside the kitchen cabinet like, what? You didn't want me to do that? Tough. You know? So he's awesome, though. We've had him since he was about 3 or 4 days old, and he's 3 years old now. So he's awesome.
My sister-in-law has 3 Chihuahuas, and someone tried to break in their house and stuck his head in the window, and the Chihuahuas mauled his face.
Can you just see this guy running down the street with like a Chihuahua hanging off his ear, another one off his lip or something?
Get it off! Get it off!
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
that's bound to leave some sort of complex for life. You know, every time he goes to sleep.
Get that thing away from me!
Get him away!
I blame the Bilderbergs and walking around Moloch. Sorry. I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Bigfoot capture is a great example of always be on the guard what you're signing up for. You know, Jim Jernigan mentioned, will there be something new coming along? I'll get to that towards the end. Because I'll explain a little thing I've kind of discovered lately, which is kind of disconcerting, and it should be disconcerting to everybody. So anyway, now we have coming up this fine program.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, me and that went round and round.
Yeah, you know, so here's a show that we kind of know they were producing evidence and laying it askew for people to find. And the funny thing is it's for Bigfoot evidence. And usually the people who came up with nothing got eliminated. The people that came up with scat or shit, they were the ones that usually got passed over for the next episode. I don't know. Did I watch the show? I don't remember watching it. Maybe 15 minutes of it, 20 minutes of it. It just, I couldn't take it. Couldn't take it.
I was actually originally cast on the show. We were going through they were doing Skype interviews at the time, and I had made it through several interviews, and we went to one of the final stages of interviews, and the guy that was interviewing me said, just for instance, if we had to fabricate some evidence for a show, would you be okay with that? And I said, no, I would never do that, and I would not be involved with any publication, any show, anything that would do that. Okay, thank you very much for blah, 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 and we said our niceties, and we'll be back in touch with you. Never heard from them for like months. And then they messaged me back, emailed me back, and wanted to have another Skype interview with me. And this really nice young African-American gentleman came on, and we had about an hour-long conversation, and then he hit me with a question. Would I be willing to come and work for the show and place evidence for contestants? And we're not going to say that it's real evidence. We're just going to see if they can discern whether this evidence is real or not. And I was like, no, I see where this is heading. I don't want to be involved in ever fabricating evidence on a TV show for Bigfoot.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And they said, thank you very much. And we hung up and everything. The guy was very cordial. I mean, there was nothing harsh or anything. And I didn't get to be on the show.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny because I interviewed for that show too. But then as the tenure of the show started, they actually had sent somebody to my house. They filmed me live at my house talking about stuff, I was showing them the 4-day cast and some of the other items that have been collected over the years. And one of the things she had said was, well, how would you feel about being teamed up with somebody that maybe you didn't get along with? And I'm going, wait. This is... And OT says, sound like what they are doing is muddying the waters on evidence. Not only were they looking to muddy the waters on evidence, but they were looking to muddy the waters...
Drama!
...on the dynamic.
Yeah.
And, you know, after she left, I got thinking... And it took me a few days, but I started talking with some of my friends, and not Bigfoot friends. I mean, friends that, you know my moral compass, and talking about it. And I was like, no, they never mentioned about any fabrication of anything to me at that point. But what the whole contestant type of deal, they never said the word fake. Otherwise, I would have said, nope, not interested. Have a nice day. But they had mentioned, you know, just like the whole game show aspect of it and challenges, but we're being very slick about what the challenges really were going to be. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to sit there and do these stupid, challenges like they do on these other, reality game shows, like the Amazing Race and stuff like that. Oh, well, now you got to sit in this bed of worms. No, I'm not playing that bullshit.
You're off the island, Steve.
I'm off the island. Well, I took myself off the island before I even got to it. So I called him back and said, nah, I thought about this, not interested. I appreciate it. Have a great time. And it was such an amazing success that after 8 episodes, it was done.
I know lots of the people that were on the show, and I don't want anybody to think that they hoaxed anything or that they were even approached to do that.
No.
This is what me alone. This is my conversation whenever I was being interviewed for being cast on the show.
Right.
So I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody that was involved. Every one of the people that was on the show have their own positives and negatives and everything that you can go find out for yourself. I'm not saying that they did anything wrong. I'm just attesting what I was asked to do.
No, somebody asked, was this Discovery? No, it was at the time. It was a channel called Spike TV, which eventually turned into True TV, which eventually turned into the Paramount Network.
Yeah,
so, and it originally started out as the Nashville
Network. Yep, you're right. Yeah. So talk about a channel that was struggling. The only show they ever had that was really that people really like was what the hell was that? Not Pawn Stars, the other Hardcore Pawn. Yeah.
Pawn.
Yeah, it's like It's a tongue twister. Hardcore pawn.
Browser, Steve.
Huh?
Do we need to
Yep,
check
there it
your-
is again. The Bilderbergs are interfering with the radio here.
He got it right. I just wanted to emphasize pawn.
Pawn. Hardcore pawn. Actually, so yeah, I saw a 300-pound man wearing some shorts from that store Lululemon. Yeah, he dropped something, bent over. I saw his Lulu and 2 of his lemons. Anyway. Sorry, just time for a dumb joke to break things up a little bit.
Yeah, but the Bigfoot bounty was pretty much a Bigfoot flop.
Yeah.
That didn't work too
and
well.
Nobody got the $10 million.
Well, yeah, they picked an area. I mean, they could have picked Central Park, you know. Yeah. If you can find Bigfoot in Central Park, we'll give you $10 million. Yeah, okay, right.
Well, you know, it's a pretty safe bet. You could throw a $10 billion bounty out there, and you got to pretty much well say, you know, people have basically been searching for this particular cryptid for, I don't know, the past 70 years or some odd like that, and no one has dropped that body on the doorsteps of ABC, NBC, CBS, any reputable news organization. Nobody's dropped that body. So you're pretty much bet that nobody's going to drop it in the 8 episodes of this show.
Mr. Celtic, I don't know if it's going to be a graphic discussion, but yes, Expedition Bigfoot is on our list. We're getting there.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mute out.
Now we have mountain monsters.
Hey, love that show.
I do. It's entertaining, but it's fake, and we all know it.
Yes, that's why.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
Guess who showed up? Hi,
B.
B.
Hey, B.
Welcome. She was driving, but she was listening. So.
You know, Mountain Monsters is another one of those shows that, I mean, watch it for the entertainment value, but if you're watching it, expecting them, to catch anything or do anything, because, I mean, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Every single place they go to, there is a devil or a monster or a Yahoo or, I mean, if you believed this show, you would be scared to go in your own backyard because there's some kind of a 12-foot tall monster with 8-inch fangs in your garage.
And here's the thing too, is when they're out doing their little public appearances, they don't talk about being Bigfoot experts. They don't talk about being monster experts. They just hang out, meet the crowd, smile at them, make them laugh a little, and that's it. They don't say they're experts on anything, but maybe hunting or trapping or whatever their professions were. And like Willie is this excellent guy. He does a lot of woodworking. Wild Bill is exactly that. He's funny as hell. And every time I run into him, he punches me in the arm.
Every one of them that I've spent any time with talking to were just salt of the earth people. I've been on several podcasts with different members of that show, and every single one of them were just salt of the earth.
Yes, they're great, and they don't make any reservation. They don't try to say, yes, this is all real. I think on the end of the shows, it's like they're filmed on the same location somewhere in West Virginia or something. I can't remember, but it's supposed to be they're going to different states and everything. But man, I watched that. The first episode I saw was when they were doing the Ohio Grassman, and the heavy-set guy with the shotgun rolled in the creek. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he rolled in the creek, and I fell in love with this show right then. I said, oh, my God, this is hilarious. This is great. Yeah. And, of course, I knew it was for entertainment.
Now here is something else that people may or may not know. But I had long discussions with Huckleberry. And he, as a child, a young adult, had a sighting of a Bigfoot, which is really interesting. And he pulled me aside. We talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that was it. He'll never really mention it to me. I don't think he ever mentioned it on the TV show, but he did have an encounter with something when he was a child. And, that's about it. It's nothing extravagant. It's nothing, it's just, hey, I was, on my property as a kid, and, there it is.
Yeah.
Nothing, and it walked off. So, and Buck, for people who don't know, Buck is actually a corrections officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, they're a good bunch of guys just doing a TV show because the chemistry they have together makes people laugh. And if you've ever seen them just hanging out, they are funnier than sin. Funnier than sin.
It's a very entertaining show. I mean, if you watch it purely for entertainment value, it is a very entertaining show. And like you said, you will laugh from the beginning of it to the end of it if you watch it to enjoy it instead of taking seriously.
Right, exactly.
Because if you take it seriously, you're going to be ticked off through the whole show just watching it mad. If you watch it for what it is, then you're going to enjoy the crap out of it.
Right, right. Next show up. Here it comes. There it is. Killing Bigfoot.
I can't really say much about this one because I only watched about 5 minutes of one episode, and it just
and
didn't
the thing
interest me
is,
at
all
all.
the guys that are on the show live within like 40 miles of me, or some of these guys, they live really close to me, and everybody's like, "Oh, you got to know this person." No, I don't. Because, and I'm gonna say this right off the bat, I am a firearms expert. I have been the firearms wrangler on a few movies and things like that, and I am ex-law enforcement officer, and I am an NRA trained instructor, firearms instructor. And I really had an issue with this show because of their unsafe handling of firearms. That was one of my big pet peeves with the show.
If they're even loaded.
But the thing is, whether they're loaded or not, they're perceived as being loaded. And they are, I don't like little children. I don't like kids. I don't like the uneducated seeing them do these things with firearms. And what if they go outside the foot and they emulate what these people are doing?
Yeah.
And their shotgun is loaded. And they're out there being irresponsible. And I for one, I really take issue when TV shows that portray themselves as being authentic have irresponsible firearms management.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll get off my soapbox, but I just wanted to say
You mean kind of like Rick Dyer handing the Rick Dyer handoff of the rifle to Morgan Matthews and shooting Sasquatch?
Yeah.
Yeah. This show, obviously you can see that this show seems to me to be very staged. Otherwise, how would you get these nice crisp, if they're really supposed to be in position hiding? Well, how is the camera getting a picture of them with light? It's like you can tell. Now, they would all be in that IR green where you wouldn't see them. And you can tell sometimes they'll put a green filter on it, but it's not real IR. Because their eyes don't reflect back and stuff like that. So
when I'm in the woods and I don't want you to see me, you're not going to see me.
Right.
You're not going to, I'm going to be in such a spot in a position to utilize the terrain, to utilize the foliage, to utilize the shadows and everything. You will not see me.
And
if I'm sitting there and you can film me with your camera, and I look like I'm sitting right beside you, then I'm not hiding.
Right. And just so you know, they did rename the show. The show is now titled Bigfoot is Real. Because Bigfoot is real. I guess killing Bigfoot was too hard of a topic. Or too.
Well, it's kind of like finding Bigfoot only to the nth degree because, we all know that the guys and gals never found Bigfoot, but these people right here, I mean, in all honesty, here's what I tell everybody that wants to go and kill a Bigfoot. What are you going to do when you pull the trigger and you walk up and cousin Fred in a costume that he bought because he thought it was funny, or somebody's son, somebody's daughter, or something, and you went out into these woods and, oh, look, Bigfoot, boom, and you just murdered somebody.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of weird. They claim they have these protocols, which they may. Maybe some of it's real and a lot of it's recreation. I'm not sure. But to me, you know, from what I've seen, right. And David, here's the thing. I wear camo out in the field. Why do I wear it out in the field? It's not to hide from Bigfoot. I wish this thing would work be a little more responsive. It's not to hide from Bigfoot. In actuality, you know, Bigfoot will come to you, or come closer to you if you're just acting normal. Yep. And it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You can wear pajamas. You can wear, cardigans. You can wear camo. The reason why I choose to use camo is because, number one, I want to shield myself from the bad animals that are out there. And number two, I want to shield, if I have to, I need to shield myself from people. Because sometimes the places we go, you don't know what you're going to encounter. Meth labs, pot grow fields, stills, just to name a few. You know, and that's why you have to, you know, that's why I don't get all, you know, bent out of shape if people go tactical, if they carry weapons, whatever, because the most dangerous thing out there is not the animals, it's man.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we are the apex predator on the planet. You got to remember that. So
Mr. Moore and I have done a whole series on his More Outdoors radio program on that exact subject of how, you know, our most dangerous encounters and how we've found, you know, I've come upon more than one meth lab in the woods, and he's come upon several, pot growing fields and things like that, you know, and you know, you come upon these things, you may need to disappear real quick before somebody gets a shot at you or, you know, finds who you are and comes to the house or anything. So, yeah, the human element is one of the things that I like to disappear from. And not only that, but I'm not trying to have an encounter like the hiker or the backpacker or whatever with Bigfoot. Yep. I'm trying to fit more into their environment in a way so that I might get a prolonged encounter rather than that, you know, oh gosh, I saw him for 0.8 of a second and couldn't get a picture, you know. So if I can blend more into, because I know I'm not hiding from them. I know they can smell me, they can see me, they can hear me, but I'm just trying to be more, or should I say, be less offensive.
Yeah.
As I take myself into their environment.
Yeah.
Now, the final show we're going to talk about this evening, and then we'll talk about a few other things too, is Expedition Bigfoot. Now, again, I have watched very little of that show. I've watched it in snippets and pieces. I'm taking the reactions from people. People aren't too happy with the show, and from what I know, it hasn't yet to be renewed. And I remember originally, in fact, this may even be on the episode 15 where I talked about the qualifications of the people that are on the show. Because none of, with the exception of Ronnie LeBlanc, who I've known for, you know, as a researcher for a while, I don't know him personally. I've never heard of, you know, the doctor or the other guy, the actor or turned Bigfoot enthusiast, and
Brian Golubetsky.
Huh? Yeah. Well, yeah.
Golubetsky. I've known him for about 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him. He actually approached me several years ago to educate him as much as possible on some cryptozoology stuff and some actual wildlife-based things. I can't speak on his qualifications in any way, shape, or form or take away from them, but I will say this. I don't have anything bad to say about the young man.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't think there's anything really bad about any of them. I just don't think, the way they got billed was proper. We have this crack team of Bigfoot experts out here. And we're like, what? And I understand these folks are not responsible for that. And people got to understand that too, is that, our good friend Darren Lee the other day, and he even said, well, I don't know about the expert thing, but the paper said, we have a Bigfoot expert talking about, it's people got to understand the term expert is, we all get hung up on, they called him a Bigfoot expert. Oh, well, number one, when you're called the Bigfoot expert, it's usually not a self-titled thing. I don't come out and say, hi, I'm a Bigfoot expert. And no, that's not how it is. Somebody says, hey, we have Bigfoot expert Steve Kulls on. Well, amongst us, we're colleagues.
Yeah,
right?
and I
right?
too have been told as an expert, and I've told them 40 times before they write something or do something like, I am not a Bigfoot expert because I don't believe there is a such thing as a Bigfoot expert. And then the next thing you know, the newspaper article or something comes out and it says Bigfoot expert.
But hold on,
people are hammering me.
let me stammer you right on that. I say there are such a thing called the Bigfoot expert. But what qualifies that as an expert? What qualifies you as an expert? Amongst ourselves, we're colleagues. Remember, when a plumber goes to a plumbing or a carpenter goes to a carpenter's convention, there are no experts. They're all colleagues. But if I call a carpenter in to build me a cabinet, he's the expert. The plumber is the expert. I have a guy that knows about metal detecting. I know nothing about that. He comes in to show me how a metal detector is used. He's the expert. We all we're such fragile egoed people that, they called him an expert. Oh my God. No, amongst ourselves, we're colleagues. If they get called an expert, we are the experts. All of us are the experts compared to the lay people that sit there and watch TV and don't do anything about this. It's a point of view. It's a viewpoint. And if you look up the definition of expert, it will tell you it's somebody that has an expertise in a particular area. Yes, we all have expertise in a particular area. Even the woo folks, if they believe that whatever, then they have their own little expertise. Is it based on science? Maybe not. But remember, the term expert is based off the word expertise. Yeah. And compared to me and Joe Schmo on the street, that's never been out in the woods to look for a Bigfoot. Yeah, people who have seen them, people who have experienced, people who have tracked them, yes, they are the experts compared to other people. But amongst ourselves, amongst you, amongst Chris, amongst anybody else, a lot of people in the chat that have gone out and done things, we're just colleagues. We're not experts. And that's the way I look at it. Does that kind of make sense to you, Jeff?
Yeah, in a way. My take on it is there can be experts in the legend and the lore, but there can be people that have a certain expertise in the field. I just am one of those guys that say, I equate it to there not being a recognized course of study and a degree type thing. And when you talk about experts,
but then again, if you have a room full of physicists,
I agree.
If you have a room full of physicists, nobody there is an expert amongst themselves. They're colleagues.
I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. And Pat says, yeah. And then Pat says there are no Bigfoot experts because there's no knowledge of what Bigfoot is. And to that I say wrong, because we know they're a primate. Come on, look at them: articulate hands and feet, large brain, forward-facing eyes. no prehensile
you're
tail.
wrong. They're a lemur.
Huh?
They're a lemur. They're
Yeah.
a lemur. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I had to put that in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do know stuff. We do have knowledge of what a Bigfoot is, but not to the conclusion. You know, it's like looking at, really, if somebody goes out and runs around, looking at monkeys all the time, does that make them a monkey expert versus a primatologist who's never been in the woods, who's never been in the field with them, who has more experience with them, right? So it's all a frame. It's all a frame of mind.
Because even with myself, I'm billed often, as a wildlife expert. I hold degrees, but I don't actually hold a degree in zoology. I do have a veterinary technician license, and I have a degree in electronics from the University of Colorado.
So Jeff, let me ask you this: how long have you hunted?
Oh my gosh, my dad started taking me into the woods whenever I was 6 months of age.
Okay, so you know what? I would consider you, if I went out hunting with you, I would consider you an expert in hunting. Because compared to me, I know tracking, now I do. But as far as hunting and skinning and gutting a deer and stuff like that, I have no freaking clue. Yeah, I'm not a hunter, I hunt with a camera, yeah.
On the wildlife side, I've been put to the test by some of the best people that actually hold degrees in marine biology and zoology, things like that, and every one of them have walked away astounded at what I know, because I enjoy animal science to the point I have stuffed my mind full of every piece of literature I could read about animals and about their habitat, animal husbandry, all of those things about. I've made it my point with my Bigfoot research that every animal that lives in my particular area of research, I know every call they make. I know where they bed. I know the nests they make. I know just everything they eat. I've made it my business to know everything there is about them. And I may not know something about the woods of New York and some of the animals in New York, but in my region of Texas, I've made myself, for lack of a better term, an expert on every piece of wildlife fauna that there is.
I will say this, Jeff. Nothing sounds louder than a flippin' armadillo. They sound like a Sherman tank coming through the woods.
Okay, Brian Impey is on here listening to this show. Brian is one of my best friends in the world. I took Brian for his very first Bigfoot expedition camp out, and I gave him the royal treatment where we built our own beds. We caught our food wild in the woods and cooked it over an open fire. Well, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I go to sleep. I pile me up a bunch of leaves. I lay down, go to sleep. During the night, this armadillo starts coming through the woods by us, and you would have thought it was a gorilla that was on a rampage, because this armadillo was making so much noise. And Brian was like, "Man, I don't know what's coming through these woods." Which at the time I didn't either, until we shined the flashlight and it was an armadillo. And he's like, "There's no way that little 5-pound animal sounds like a freight train barreling through these woods."
Yeah, they are friggin'. A couple of questions away. I don't get this question. Why was their backup 30 miles away? My only answer to that is Taco Tuesday. Okay, so Brian has a question. After all the media shows, docudrama, databases, sightings, etc., is there something on the horizon that is a next level transition to the subject? And it is getting really old with all the watered down information and exposure. What do you see as the next quality iteration in the next 10 years? And what I say is eDNA, environmental DNA collection.
Yeah.
And if you were here a few weeks ago when we had Haskell Hart on the show, Dr. Hart, he was talking about, some of the things. And they recently and we talked at the top of the show about the Loch Ness article, but there was an eDNA study from the loch that had nothing abnormal into it. It had salmon, it had trout, it had, whatever. But
eels.
But yeah, I really think eDNA will be the next step, and it's not very exciting. Not very exciting at all. But if anybody's got any other comments, there's another section I want to talk about. We talked about Expedition Bigfoot. Yes, there was a lot of things about the show. We know it's set up, the whole Antoine Ranch thing. The only thing I got to say is what we don't know is the backstory. And I always caution that were there sighting reports that brought them there? Because if you look at the area around the Antoine Ranch, it's pretty flippin' desolate. And I'm sure they visited some of the sites there, but some of the sites were just kind of like they were looking for filler. Oh, let's do the mine. That looks kind of cool. Oh, here's this old truck. No, to me, that's very disingenuous. But how much of the talent we can blame for that? And there's a difference between talent and production and network.
Right.
Those are the three stages. Right. And the people who have the less pull are the people who are actually doing the work, and that's the talent.
That's right.
And the cameramen and the sound people, the people that have the call, or the directors, producers, especially the executive producer, and the people on the editing room floor. And we should never forget that this is entertainment, and they, for some reason, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but who will do environmental DNA? It requires professionals, nothing to do with Bigfoot world. That is not true, Pat.
Yeah.
If you glove up and take a vial of water and cap it, do it, you can send it off for eDNA. It's all in the collection. Anybody can collect DNA.
Yep.
All you got to do is find the right lab to process the eDNA. If you glove up and take a sample of soil under a footprint, right? And you cap that up, you can send that away for eDNA. So
as long as you can afford to pay for it.
Might be a good thing to start remembering. Always add a little baggie to you take your DNA kit and grab soil sample off a footprint.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the way to go, because if any skin cells flake off that print into the print itself, you collect that dirt.
Here's the thing.
Well,
why not?
Pat goes, who pays for it? Well, you do. It's your evidence.
It's expensive.
Ain't no free. Yeah, unfortunately it is. Ain't no free rides though in Bigfooting.
People need to quit with the plaster cast thing, because plaster casts are never going. If you're doing it for your, so you got something to sit in the living room or whatever, that's fine. But taking them in order to prove that Bigfoot exists, it's never going to prove it.
Right.
They're better off. But you suggested get you a shovel and a baggie and glove up and scoop that entire track, under that entire track, put it in a gallon Ziploc baggie, and say, of this entire baggie, surely there's one skin cell, something that sloughed off when the step was made.
Yeah.
I'm on one side, then the next. I don't understand that comment. But if there is no Bigfoot DNA, how are you supposed to compare it to a Bigfoot? Can you answer that, Steve? Well, it would come up as an unknown. It would come up in the primate class, and it would definitely be flagged for, and depending on the DNA, it can eventually be sequenced.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what you want me to take a stand for, Sean. I have no clue. The question was asked, what do I think the next thing will be? And I said it's eDNA.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I think that is the most promising tool that we've had in decades.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? I tend to agree with that as well. people, we get into this argument that DNA ain't going to do it. But it's a good start. It's a good start.
Well, it will prove that there is something out there.
So,
now, we don't have a type specimen to go with it.
If folks, and that's why I don't, I'm not against the anti-kill people. If you want to grab a gun and go out, or pro-kill people, if you want to go out and grab a gun and believe you need to get a type specimen, go for it. And Pat, a thermal will not prove anything. It won't. Number one, it's not. It won't. A picture, a video will not prove anything. It's like a print. People will say it was faked. Science will say, well, it's some sort of heat signature, but it doesn't prove it's a Bigfoot.
Right.
We've been down this road before.
Yeah.
You will either need a solid DNA, which again, that's even questionable because I have nothing to compare it to. Yeah. And that I agree with. That's why if you use and I've always said this, and exactly, David, I agree. Thermals are for tracking, not proof, or, at least ruling stuff out. Okay, I hear a noise. Okay, that's a deer. Oh, that's a field mouse. Oh, that's an armadillo. And you're right. Yeah, Jim thinks it may take a body. It may very well.
Yeah.
DNA will prove some things, but
here's what you can do with DNA. You can say, okay, I've taken this DNA sample, and we've sequenced this DNA. This guy that lives 10 states away got that exact same DNA match, or with just slight differences. And you're able to say, okay, we've established that this DNA does not match anything in GenBank.
How do you know I don't know anything about aerial thermal technology? How do you know that? Somebody will say it's a man in a suit. I know a lot about aerial thermal technology.
Yeah. No matter how good your thermal is, there's always going to be a group out there that's
it's not going to prove it. It's not without a type, and science will say without a type specimen, it's not going to prove it. You expect a thermal image which shows less definition than a video or a picture, and yet, what's happened with the Patterson-Gimlin film?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't know a thing.
Right. You're absolutely right.
And Pat, sorry, this is not a pissing contest, but don't come in here and say that a aerial thing aerial thermal will prove it when in the past it has not. No thermal has ever, whether it's in the sky or on the ground, it don't matter. They'll say it's something else. And I'm not going to get in a pissing contest over this.
Well, but
look at it like this: what can you show with a thermal? Even the most advanced thermal we have, you can show
an image.
You can show a temperature. You can show a relative size of something. That's all great, but you can't show what color it is. You can't show definition of facial features. You can't show any definition that you can. I mean, I've got a camera with a 24 megapixel camera on my freaking cell phone, and I can take a picture and people say it's fake.
Right.
And that has way more definition than a thermal.
And that may be, but one thing thermals can't penetrate: trees. You can't penetrate trees. So if you're looking for a Bigfoot in a forest, and it doesn't happen to be walking out in a plane, and by a plane I mean a flatland, you're not going to prove it. You're not going to prove it. And even if you get that shot while it's out in a field, the scientists will say, this is just an image and it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove it's a Bigfoot more than it proves it's a man in a monkey suit. That's what they're going to say.
Right.
Have you not learned from the last 50, 60, 70 years this has been going on? Right. I hate to throw... Okay, you guys don't know what you're talking about? Pat, I think it's time for you to go.
Okay, hold on just a minute. I want to address something real quick. I want to address something. I work on a regular basis in my hunting with some of the most cutting-edge thermal optics for night hunting and eradication of feral hogs. I work with a company called Third Coast Thermals, and I have got $20,000 thermal units put in my hands to put on top of rifles to go after feral hog in Texas. And I'm telling you right now, I can tell you it's a hog. I can tell you, but at 300 yards, I can't tell you what color that hog is. I can't tell you. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can't tell you about. But a $25 regular daytime scope on 9 power, I can look at that hog and tell you it's a male, whether it's female, what color it is, how big it is, blah 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 blah. A $20, $30 rifle scope will give me more definition at distance than the most expensive thermal that you can throw at me. That's a fact.
Well, using the thermal as a tool to locate them is perfect. That's fine. That's a good idea. Especially, in the wintertime when the leaves are gone. Yes, you could use an aerial thermal from a drone. That's all I'm going to go. I'm going to say a drone. But anyway,
no, I'm sorry, Pat. Hold on a second, guys. I'm sorry, Pat. You said trees. I said with the canopy. You said we don't know what we're talking about. You're being very argumentative. Take it down a notch, please.
Well,
okay. In my neck of the woods, the squatches move out of the area when the canopy's down, and they move into the Green Mountains, which is all deciduous pine. So the canopy isn't down in the wintertime for our guys.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, even with we see thermals that have been captured before. Okay, that may have shown a creature, but it doesn't prove it to science that they exist. Because the scientists can just say, well, yeah, you've got a thermal of some individual there. But, it doesn't necessarily mean it's Bigfoot.
Well, look at it in human terms. You take a human being and you put him 200 yards, even 50 yards down the road. You give me a thermal, even the most advanced thermal there is. I cannot tell you whether he's Caucasian, African-American, Asian, or anything. I can't tell you if he has black hair, blonde hair, or red hair. I can't tell you if he's wearing a red shirt, a blue shirt, or black shirt. I can't tell you whether he has a beard or a mustache or what color his eyes are or any of those things with a thermal.
Right.
I can give you a relative size and girth and things like that. They are a great tool for doing what you need to do with them. They're a great tool. You cannot get definition.
Right.
You can't.
And I still say that even if you got definition, it wouldn't be good enough for science to say it's real.
No.
We've been arguing about the Patterson-Gimlin film for how many decades now?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's right, Jeff.
I don't think any film, audio, or anything by itself will stand. But here's what may. Okay, you take that aerial surveillance and you put that in an area and you capture something on that thermal. And at the same time, you go down to that area and you collect some eDNA.
Boom, right there, baby.
Now you have it. You see, one technology, if you don't want to put one on a slab or kill one, which I don't, one technology will not work by itself. That's why when I set up DNA traps, I always have a trap camera nearby. Because what happens is, I'm going to have a picture of what's leaving that DNA behind, and that will prove it. So if anybody has listened to this show over the last, 18 years, when we started, 2006, 14 years, anybody's listened to this over the last 14 years, they know that it's going to take a combination of technologies if you want to be no-kill. And usually my MO is trap cam, digital recorder to capture sound, boom, DNA trap. Then you have 1, 2, 3 forms of evidence. You can package that up. Okay, here's what we collected it off of. Here's the DNA sample. If you had something big and hairy walking in front of the camera and you collect DNA And guess what? The DNA is a bear. Guess what? That big and hairy thing is in front of your camera. It's a bear. But at least you have the documentation to prove it's a bear.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So the same thing. You have something big and hairy moving in front of your trail camera, and then you find tracks. You take pictures, 3D scans. If there's more than one, you'll take a cast of one, collect the eDNA from the other. Now you have multiple sources of evidence and the eDNA to show where the DNA sample came from.
We're doing a study right now I'm involved with here in Texas on red wolves. The red wolf is extinct in the state of Texas, but we have found a remnant population of red wolves. It's mixed with the coyotes. It's diluted. But if I just took a thermal or a photograph of one of these animals without DNA, without collecting any kind of DNA, you can't say definitively, oh, well, it does kind of favor a red wolf, but it looks like a coyote too. But what we do is we collect that DNA. And that DNA, along with the thermal and the high-def photo and video, you prove that the red wolf's lineage is still alive, even though it is diluted and it is mixed with the coyote population. There are still some red wolf, there is still some red wolf DNA out there. So that's kind of the same thing we're talking about with this Bigfoot. We've got to have the thermal footage, the regular high definition camera footage, and the DNA, and boom, if you've got all three of those, that's just as good as putting a body on the slab.
Now, Chris Noder says until you have a body alive or dead, it's not going to matter what evidence you have. That may be so. You know, that very well could be too. You know, and that's affirmative.
I live in a town called Tenaha.
Mixed comment of the night.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, man.
That's very true.
Yeah, whoever asks where I live, I live right on the Texas-Louisiana border in a little town called Tenaha. I live right on the Sabine River.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I
have a lot of property, private property. I actually have over 1,000 acres of private
Missouri's
property.
represented tonight. Good evening, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
So, yeah, I mean, and wait a minute, Sean, what about me? I don't live here in New York. Yeah, Sean says he wants to take you out in Massachusetts at 3 a.m. anytime in October. That's very true. I have been out in Massachusetts in the morning, and there have been some things at one particular area that I was taken to that I can't explain. You want to talk about tree knocking? Tree knocking, and then all of a sudden, when we got close, something came down like a tree was pushed out.
I'd love to go to Massachusetts for any reason. I've never been and would just thoroughly love to be out there in the woods at 3 a.m. You know, that would be like a bucket list item for me.
Yep. So, okay, got a question. Steve, tell me your feelings. If you found someone shot a Bigfoot in New York and they say they thought it was a black bear, would you be outraged or relieved that this happened? What would be the consequences? Does New York recognize shoot to kill? So let me explain this to everybody. Killing an unknown creature in the United States, as far as I know, is not illegal because it's not classified as anything in existence at this time. Now, somebody had asked, well, what if it comes out to be like a Homo sapien or an offshoot of a Homo erectus or whatever? It could be considered a homicide, right? No. Under the way the country's laws are written, until that area, or rather that creature, ever gets recognized, it's at the point of recognition going forward. So you can't charge somebody In other words, okay, somebody shoots a Bigfoot. It turns out to be, let's just say, let's just call it Homo Sasquatch. That sounds kind of weird, but so it's a Homo paranthropus or whatever. So we call it Homo paranthropus. So it turns out, well, that killing those going forward, killing those, we would consider that a homicide. Okay, so they make that a law, and they make that a law, say on October 4th, 2020. Well, if they killed them on October 3rd, 2020, they can't go back and charge that person with homicide because the law was not on the books until October. In New York, I know very clearly in New York, it's not illegal to kill anything that is not on the books. It's an unknown animal. Bang. You kill it and it's newly discovered. Guess what? You get a free pass on that because it's not in the books. Unless there's certain areas, such as the village of Whitehall or Skamania County, where there are actual laws on the books from you disturbing what is known as a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And there's several places that have made that distinction, that it's protected.
Right. But I would also caution that those laws have been untested as well. And you could always claim, and you could always claim that you did it in self-defense.
Right.
So really, and nobody's ever going to call you on the carpet for that.
Pretty much, I mean, all these laws have done is kind of made it a protected species. It's not going to be like murder or anything like that.
Right.
So you would probably get the same fine as if you killed, a certain species of woodpecker or. So,
just so you know, Jeff, Chris Noter lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and would like to contact you at some point in time.
Of course, man, I'm an open book. Contact me through Facebook. Send me a
an
message.
open invitation. Come out Southeast Oklahoma near Hochatown. Ah, yeah. Yeah, I haven't been out in Southeast Oklahoma in a while. That's a fun place. That's somewhere near Atoka, too, I believe.
I love Oklahoma.
But, yeah, Oklahoma's fun. It's where the winds come.
Fun. A lot of good folks, a lot of good researchers in Oklahoma.
Oh, another note from our special guest. Yeah, Oklahoma's where the winds come sweeping down the plain. Yep, okay, then.
Oh, he's doing that.
Well, Steve, since we're on this topic of the killing Bigfoot discussion, I would like to remind everybody that even if there is not a law on the book specifically saying you cannot be held accountable for murder, charged with murder for killing a Bigfoot, there will be millions of people around the world who will hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah, you probably have to hire a bodyguard because somebody's going to.
Definitely.
There are people that are on the extremes of everywhere. Haven't we seen that in life in reality? There's extreme people that have very extreme values and views, and you've just become a target.
Right. Now I'm a no-kill kind of guy, and I do whatever my conscience can live with. And I tell everybody else, I've had this discussion with people I've went out with. I carry a pistol. They were carrying a pistol. We had this discussion. They asked me, what would I do if they saw one and they shot at it? And I said, well, you do whatever you can live with. Okay. I'm not. Mine's going to stay in the holster. But now you do whatever you can live with.
Yeah, exactly. And Ron said, if I find it hard to believe science, all the advancements that so-called science has made, we still resort to the same methods that were used 100 years ago, like killing them. That's why I'm a firm believer. Let's try the technologies
right. Yeah.
package first and see. Yeah, that's right. Peter would go insane, more insane. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's right, Jim.
My take is to kill something that is possibly the most rare species on Earth just to prove it exists. I will go my entire life without proving it exists before I do that. Now, I'm a hunter. I get death threats, 2, 3, 4 times a week by some PETA nut or some tree-hugging hippie. So, I get death threats. I challenged Dave on his muzzle flash that he claimed in the video that, they shot Patty and all of that. And next thing you know, I've got like 10 of his cult-like followers that are sending me messages like telling me that, they're going to kill me in my sleep. And of course I gave them my address and said, if you need help finding the house, I'll meet you in the yard. But, people are nuts.
They are. And, it's kind of funny. We were talking about, somebody asked me on a previous show, have I ever gotten death threats before? And we talked last week about that guy, Jason Boone, who made a kind of a sideways threat that you want me to shoot him to Kat Hansen, debunking her. A similar thing happened with Bob Garrett when I outed his audio being a recording of a gorilla and how he had taken some folks for some money on an expedition that never went off and they never gave them their money back. And so Mick had asked a question. When is the next Squatch Detective Bring Your Own Beer Meatloaf Cookout? I don't know. I've never done a meatloaf on the grill before.
I actually make meatloaf on the grill, and it's pretty dadgum good. I make it with
sounds
vinegar.
it now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Oh, I love meatloaf. I love it. I've never had a bad meatloaf.
Okay, so
I make it on mesquite smoke. I use mesquite to smoke it on my grill, my pit, rather, not a grill. And I use a 50-50 mix of wild pork and venison on it. And, of course, my own secret recipe of spices and stuff that goes in the middle of it. And, man, when it's done, it'll make your tongue slap a hole in the roof of your mouth.
Hey, I'm Jeff. This is Alex. I live over in Dallas. When are you cooking out next? Shut up, Alex.
Actually, I just put about an 80-pound shoat in the ice chest yesterday evening with my bow, and that bad boy is going on the smoker about Wednesday. I'm gonna let it. I like to put them in an ice chest and let them soak in ice water and a brine for about 4 or 5 days. Pull some of that gaminess out of it, and then put them on that smoker. And buddy, it's gonna be just. Woo, I'm telling you.
Somebody asked Eric P. from YouTube. Hello, Eric. Is Standing missing in action? I've heard, a lot of people said he just went off the grid. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it has something to do with that the attempted murder charges.
I think we know why.
Maybe he's laying low. I don't know. There may be some other reasons too. But I'm not at liberty to say exactly just what yet. But I don't know if he's MIA, to tell you the truth. And Tax says road trip. We'll be down. Yeah. We'll be down, Jeff, for meatloaf. Just let us know.
Pick me up.
I'll pick you up on the way down, Chris.
Yep.
No, not Eric. Sorry, not him, but not him. But one of his when he made a trip to Alabama, and he met up with his Southeast representative, a woman by the name of Gwendolyn Michelle Jones. And a couple of weeks later, she was arrested for attempted murder, domestic violence, and trespassing.
Oh, guacamole.
So, yeah, she took 3 shots at the guy while he was in bed, then took a couple of more shots while he was standing in the hallway. Missed all 5 times, thank God. But, boy, she's a bad shot.
Yeah, I read that, and the dude said he was asleep. He was asleep, and he was awakened by gunfire.
And she's missing. He's asleep, and she's missing. So I have no clue. Other than she sat in jail for about 13 days till she made her $81,000 bond. So, anywho, let me aside, and we'll talk about the meatloaf in 1 second. But one thing I wanted to point out. Yeah, we're still talking about the meatloaf. One of the things that I've made a comment on very recently is I have been through, especially in the last 3 years, I've been through 4 or 5 different pitches to networks for a television program. I've been approached by at least a couple of production companies. The problem I think they have with me is I'm too skeptical. They want somebody else saying, "Oh, it's a Bigfoot. Oh, it's a Bigfoot. It's a Bigfoot." They don't want somebody exposing the truth. One of the shows, and I didn't put this up here, but it also falls in that character, Paranormal Caught on Tape. That is the biggest bullshit show I've ever seen in my life. Yes, there are some videos I think that are authentic, but I've seen one video that we've kind of debunked here, from the little Bigfoot looking around the tree at the father and son, and how psychologically it makes no sense. The father going to the little son, "Oh, look, there's a Bigfoot." No, if you're looking at something mysterious like that, you're, "Hey, get behind me."
Yeah.
You're going to have this protect reaction, right? Not
Right.
this, "Oh, look, it's a Bigfoot." That's number one. But then several months later, they air a video of a Bigfoot that was the Squatch Master's Bigfoot, saying it was in Ohio. When that video first came out, he said it was in Pennsylvania. And we've seen his videos before, including the dead one.
Yeah.
Right? But they put it on there like it was like the real thing. So it's very apparent these people do no research on anything they do. And that was actually a program that we were pitching for, was to do an actual on-scene investigation of some of these things. And no, we already have this show. It's called Paranormal Caught on Tape, and it's a piece of garbage. I like, I know one of the people on there who, and again, they're just talking heads, and they're probably asking questions. Well, if that was a Bigfoot, what would you do? Yeah, well, and that's how they're answering it. But a lot of the videos they're showing, especially of the cryptid ones, are bullshit. And I don't drop too many words. But that's also the reason why you probably haven't seen me on a TV show, is because I am too skeptical. I am too analytical. They don't want people to debunk something. That's bad business. They want somebody to make it scary, make it They want the spook factor. Well, folks, I'm not about that. Anybody that's been in this show has followed this show for the last 14 years. They know I am not about bullshit. I'm about calling it like it is, telling it like it is. And that's why we did part of this show tonight, and that's why we do our shows every week. It's why the whole hashtag stopthewoonacy. It's for all this crazy stuff that comes out of everything. And we got a few minutes left. Yep.
Your show was the first podcast I ever did. Way back. I don't remember when it was, but it was a long time ago. And I remember that it was the first one I had done, and we had such a great time.
Yeah. That's what it's about. It's about having some laughs, not take ourselves too seriously, but we take the topic seriously. And, yep. Like I said, folks, we try to keep it real. As things develop, we let you know. I will tell you how I feel. I will tell you everything. What I won't tell you is that if something I don't feel is real, I won't say, "Oh, that's the real thing," because it's, I won't necessarily, I won't bring somebody on the show if I don't believe them, at least on face value.
Right. Oh, absolutely, man.
Oh, I saw a Bigfoot riding a pony into the. Okay, thanks. Yep, I'm not going to have you on my show. No, thank you. But if you have even folks, even if you have a woo type of experience, I'll gladly bring you on the show too to discuss your experience, because I think there may be some science behind why there's some woo sometimes. We've talked about that over the last 14 years. And we haven't really done an anniversary show, but the 24th of September, just 10 days ago, marked our 14th anniversary. But we were so busy, me going back to work, it completely just right out of my mind until just a little bit ago. Hey, wait a minute. But it's good, and hopefully we'll be here for another 14 years.
Absolutely, man.
And that's what it's about. And I want to thank you, Jeff, for coming on tonight, hopping in last minute. I love having you on always. Your voice of reason.
I love being on with you guys.
So you were a voice of reason. We love having you on.
Oh yeah, always love having Jeff.
So
always.
Steve Works. What am I, Eddie Murphy in Coming to America? My son works. Which, by the way, is one of my favorite comedies, is Coming to America.
Oh, man, that's like a timeless classic.
But here's the thing, and people don't understand this, is my father grew up in the Bronx. My mother grew up in the Bronx, too. My father grew up in the Bronx, and he was married, not married. When he was married the first time around, he lived in Beacon, New York, which is just about maybe 40 miles north of New York City. And he lived next to this Hasidic Jewish guy. And he could kick out an accent, the Hasidic Jewish accent, to a T. And this guy was zany. They had and we're going to run a little bit over, but that's okay. He would have these garages that would lean in, and it's like kind of under the house in the basement.
Yeah.
Well, one day he loved telling the story. I remember listening to this as a little kid. The guy missed his driveway, and next thing you know, he's screaming because his car is like this, with the wheels up on the wall.
Oh.
So what ended up happening is, here I am, this 5-year-old kid, listening to my father imitate this Hasidic Jewish guy. Right. So over the years, and a lot of people haven't heard me do this but I've picked up the ability to do that perfectly.
Uh-oh.
God damn it, what are you talking about? You should be so lucky, you mashugana. Oh, I'm all verklempt. So I can do that perfectly. That's right, you goddamn putz. They should call this place, they shouldn't call this Mighty Sharp, they should call this the Three Putzes. So I can do all, is that velvet? I can do all the, hey, Kenta Kunta. I can do the whole, I can do everything Eddie Murphy in there and do the voices. So I say to the waiter, try the soup. Just taste the goddamn soup. Where's the spoon? Aha. So I can do all so yeah, it's one of the easiest voices for me to do, and sometimes just it'll come out naturally. Hoi vey, but
Mashugana.
Goddamn Mashugana. Oh, and yeah, Chris, yeah, I can do Frank Rizzo. Yeah, no, you piss me off one way, I go the other way. I'll throw a shoe so far up your ass. But me, my temper's always a bit of a problem. I'm always swinging with the fences. I can do, and and then so I love voice work. It's fun.
Oh.
It's always fun when I call up the Walmart. Oh yes, hello. I was at your service desk about 5 minutes ago, and I lost my dot. I believe I left it on you. How should you say it? The service desk? And then they'll start looking for it. Hang on, I don't see it. So we have fun. We have all kinds of fun. Yeah.
My face is hurting, Steve.
So yeah, I'm. What's the matter with you, Ron Bulls? So I got to be in the mood to do certain accents, and today was Alex Jones Day, but yeah. So anyway, I know somebody needs to go nappy land. Because he's been up for almost a fortnight. Yeah. And but anyway, we want to thank everybody for being on tonight. And Chris, you want to say your thing real quick, and we'll get the hell out of here.
Again, I want to thank Jeff for coming on, being a great guest. Thanks to all our listeners.
Every time he's on, I'm goddamn verklempt. Anyway,
if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on YouTube, either way, please hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Appreciate it. Thank you for your support.
Okay, folks. On behalf of everybody here on Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a happy and safe week. Keep healthy. God bless, and most of all, keep on squatching, folks. We love y'all.
You've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com. Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.